sorry.
I had not met anyone who didn't love it. Who didn't think it was incredibly accurate, who didn't think it captured exactly what was going on with the company.
Keep down, stay still.
Keep moving! Get up! Keep moving!
I feel confident saying we represented the men well.
Lieutenant Sobel does not hate easy company, Private Randleman. He just hates you.
Thank you, sir.
Based on what we hear from them, we feel like we nailed it, you know, because we did the work that we needed to do to portray those men in that time as best as we could.
You are about to embark upon the Great Crusade.
To meet this mounting aggression.
And make no mistake about it, good will prevail.
I found out about Band of Brothers, I think I was doing construction at the time. I paid my way through school doing construction for film and television. And I heard that there was this, all we heard was there was a miniseries about World War II that was being produced by Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. And I think most of us early on, the idea of that combination of people doing a cool project, for us, the immediate thing wasn't about the men. We didn't know the men, we didn't know what the project was about, we didn't, all we knew was that Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, HBO does quality stuff. This was an opportunity for us to advance our career. Had nothing to do with the men, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't until you get cast and you start to explore what we're doing and get the material and go, oh, it's a real guy, and you get the file, and you sort of realize slowly the importance of the project, or the potential importance of the project, because still, you don't know. You get cast, you move forward, they tell you, okay, here's your guy, or here's a friend of your guy, why don't you call him, we've checked, we've cleared with him, give a call, get some information. In my case, we were told that Denver had passed. Nobody could get in touch with him. They didn't know he was still alive. So I was talking to Hashi, one of his good friends, and I asked him all these questions, and we get ready to finish up, and he finishes up with, when you talk to Bull, let him know that he hasn't returned any of my calls. And I'm thinking at this point, oh my gosh, like one of his closest friends from the company doesn't know he's dead. And I'm like, am I the guy to tell him? And so I say, I don't know if you know, but I had heard that he had passed. And he said, he passed? What do you mean he passed? I said, well, I heard he died. So I don't know when or what. He said, wow. He goes, that's really odd, because he was supposed to call me back. I haven't heard from him in like 3 weeks. And I went, okay, hang on a minute. Hang on. They think he passed like months ago. So you're saying you spoke to him 3 weeks ago? He goes, yeah, but he was supposed to call me back and he hasn't called me back yet. I said, let me make a couple of phone calls. He goes, well, here, take his number. So he gives me Denver's number, and I pause and go, what am I supposed to call him? Am I supposed to call the company producing? All right, so I call back to the guys producing. I go, hey, I just got Denver's number, and Hashi says he's still alive. How do you want me to proceed? And they're like, hang on a minute. Let us reach out first. Nobody knew he was with us still. We have old numbers. We have, we can't get in touch with him. Let us see if this is real and it plays out. Turns out he is. He's fine. He's living in Texarkana with his wife. His son at this point is alive. His daughter's alive. Everyone, whole family lives in Texarkana. So I wind up getting in touch with him. The long and the short of that is that as this process is going on, you start to realize how much these men care for each other and our checking in on each other and the importance of what we are about to do. And I think every one of the guys involved, from an acting standpoint, started to realize that together. We hadn't even met each other yet, and we knew that this was going to be something special.
Once you finally got to talk to him, what was he like, and how did you glean what he was all about so you could best portray that on screen? The first phone call with Mr. Randleman was pretty amazing and terrifying. I mean, if you can imagine, I think we think in our minds, we take it to present where we are. You think, oh, these guys are going to do this amazing job with these guys' lives and this thing. Like we talk about the current situation with all the information we have up till now. What you don't realize is that these guys don't talk to anyone. So now we take back what's really happening. We go back to the beginning. Show has not been produced yet. Guys have been talked to about, hey, this book, Stephen Ambrose, that guy that you didn't really even want to talk to at the time or weren't sure if you trusted or kind of trusted, but you did this interview and this book came out. You're still not sure if you like the guy yet. They're making a movie out of it. They're making a movie. We're doing a miniseries. Hey, are you in the movie? We're doing the movie. That's what all the guys kept saying. So the movie, have another level. You have these actors reaching out who are going to portray you, for better or worse. Now, in their minds, Hollywood f***s everything up. So it's like, they're going to mess this up, so we got to make sure that they get it right. We go, now put yourself in our shoes, where I'm the oldest guy in the actor. I'm the oldest. I don't think Denver was, he may have been one of the older guys. I'm the oldest guy, the oldest actor in the company. I'm 35 at the time when we shoot this. And everyone else is younger, all the way down to 19 years old, I think, some the younger guys. And we're given a phone number, and it's, hey, call this guy. How does that phone call start? Hey, I'm the actor who's going to portray you, and where do you? It's terrifying. It's terrifying. For me, it was the scariest phone call I had ever made in my life. I literally was rehearsing, picked up the phone, dialed, almost all the numbers, probably 6 times, hung up the phone. I was like, how do I start this? How do I not screw this up? Because I've never done anything like this before. So I eventually call. I get Vera on the phone. I said, hello, my name is Michael Cudlitz. The actor who's going to be portraying your husband in the miniseries. And Vera, who's was just lovely, says, oh, yes, you're the young man we've been waiting to hear from. Hold on. So I was like, okay, this is great. Yeah, this is awesome. This is going to be easy. So Denver picks up the phone. He's like, yep. He said, oh, hello, sir. My name is Michael Cudlitz. I'm the actor who's going to be portraying you in the miniseries. He's like, uh-huh. So I was wondering if I could maybe talk to you a little bit about, and going through my mind is now, I'm like, tell me about the war. I'm like, what, how stupid is it? Tell me about the war? What, like, no, I got nothing. I got less than he has, and he's giving me nothing. So I'm like, I'm calling really just to get to know you and see if you can answer a couple questions so I can get a little bit of a sense about what you went through in the war and how you feel about it now, and your friends and people you keep in touch with. So I'm just wondering if that's okay. He's like, uh-huh.
This goes on for probably 15, 20 minutes. And I got nothing. I mean, I'm getting nothing from him. I don't know where I'm going to turn to next. So I'm literally, I'm kind of wrapping it up, and like, okay, well, he's quiet. I got that from him, and I said, well, let me say goodbye to Vera, and maybe I'll call you in a couple of days, and we can chat about some stuff, and I'll think about some questions I have for you. He's like, okay. Hands the phone to Vera, and I start to say goodbye to Vera, and she says, well, did he answer all your questions? I said, well, it's kind of hard to, it's a weird subject matter. She's like, well, would you like me to tell you about him? And I was like, okay, here we go. We spoke for an hour and a half about how they, I forget exactly how they met, but I know they went on this double date before he went off to the war. But just telling me what kind of person he was, what kind of man he was, the things he did for her prior to going away, how it was when he came back. Just an immense amount of information, and ultimately phenomenal information for an actor, because as an actor you realize I don't need to know what he felt about what he did, because that's how he felt. What I really need to know is how other people perceived him, because that's who we are when we move around in the world. I could think I'm the most kind person in the world, and if everybody else is like, that dude's an asshole, he doesn't take care of anybody, that's who you are to the rest of the world. You may deep inside, but if you're not letting your deep inside out and you're not sharing it with anyone, that's, you are who you are perceived to be, at least from the standpoint of something that is I can use as an actor. So getting information from Vera was incredibly invaluable, and we stayed really, really close until she passed away. Just a very, very, very sweet woman.
Well, the next thing that brought you all together, I believe, was the boot camp, right? Mm-hmm. So that was pretty intense, and how did that give you a better idea of what Mr. Randleman went through, and how did it bring you together as a cast?
I compare it to, yes, it was a boot camp, but it was an actor's boot camp. I mean, it was like we didn't go through 99% of what these guys went through, and we are not soldiers, and we are not, we're actors. We got a little taste of what it might be to possibly maybe do that, but we were able to show it on screen in a way that is believable, and the men supported and gave their stamp on. The boot camp I really equate to like a hell week or a couple of hell weeks in football for anyone who's done sports. Just really intense training, full immersion. For us, it was 2 weeks, I think 10 or 12 days. We went away to a local base where we were shooting in England. There was an abandoned part of this base that was shut down, and old barracks, and we just took it over, and within 2 days we show up as all, recruits, fresh off the boat, as it were, just getting screamed at, don't know anything, and learning everything on the fly. Within 2 days, we were all only referring to each other as our character names and our ranks. And a day later, we all moved up into our proper ranks that we were going to be portraying on the show. So, within 3 days, I'm in charge of platoon. Damien, who played Winters, is in charge of the company. All the staff sergeants are running the show, being talked to in their ear, but
we're running this whole thing like it's a company, and horribly, I'm sure, at first. But full immersion and having to do everything and not, and being allowed to fail, there's nothing that lets you learn something more quickly and thoroughly than being fully immersed in it and succeeding and failing at it, because the failures reinforce what it is and the successes give you the confidence to move forward. By the time we came back, 10 days later, I don't know what the hell we were, but we were not the same, 150 guys that left. It was a pretty amazing experience. In that time we did a lot of physical training, calisthenics, conditioning, weapons training. Everybody was training on the specific weapons you would be using, but then we were sort of cross-training on the things that we would have known how to use from extended basic training if we would have gone through it. But starting with the things that we were going to be using, all the time. So if you were written out in the script and you were really only, you're part of the mortar team and you were working on mortars, that's what you came out doing. You still might not know how to really operate your M1. You were on mortars. That's the thing you need to be incredibly proficient at and look and really know what was happening, because the stuff in the script is written out. The mortar team, mortars are fired. Okay, mortars are fired. What does that entail? Well, they have to know what they're doing. So they were trained in that. And then we were trained how to work as a company and how to work as smaller platoons, and then squads. So at every aspect we were building this company within these 10 days. Captain Dale Dye, who trained us, again, I'll use the Hell Week analogy for football. He was the coach that we hated, and it was by design, because you have a common enemy, and then you bond behind your sort of hatred at the moment for that asshole who's making you do all this stuff that sucks, and you grow closer together from that, and that's exactly what Sobel did to the company. So there are a lot of parallels that were happening. David Schwimmer was brought in as Sobel to take over the company very late after we were bonding as a company. Then they brought him in and knocked Damien down, because Damien was no longer in charge. He was in charge, but now there was somebody in charge of him, and he would come in and literally just sort of screw everything up. So now we were like, screw that guy. So he was Captain was building in the structure of us being in charge of who we were in charge of, having to answer to who we had to answer to, but then also putting Schwimmer as Sobel in charge of us, who came in late, didn't have to go through any of the stuff that we went through the prior 8 days, and all of a sudden this guy's in charge. So we were like, screw you, which is exactly the power structure that we have in the show. So Captain Dye is there's nobody better at doing what he does. The dude's like Tony Robbins with a gun. I mean, he's just like this motivator of men, as he calls it. I'm a motivator of men. And, we were armed. So it was an incredible experience. And we made the connections with the other guys, the other actors, the other men in the company. We made these connections that we carried through the project, and still to this day do, very, very much like the men who served.
I want to talk about one particular episode that features you a lot, and that's in Holland, where you get separated and you end up in a barn and there's hand-to-hand combat. What are you thinking as you're doing it, as you're preparing for it, and thinking about what these guys actually did when it's one man against another and only one of them's going to come out alive?
I loved reading that episode because it was just two men fighting hand to hand. It's the first time we'd sort of seen that. It's brutal because it escalates
and the way it escalates. In the end, Denver winds up stabbing him in the face, basically, with a bayonet. So it's a pretty graphic thing that we don't really see, but we see the bigger image of it, and we know what's happened. But that moment when Denver turns and sees and realizes that this young girl has witnessed that pulls him back. It reminds him of his humanity. And I think that the guys went through a lot of that because they were within the population of the people in Holland and in France, and when they jumped, they weren't just encountering soldiers, they were encountering the village people and the townspeople, families. So I think you're always being pulled back to reality to some degree.
You obviously discovered that, and you probably knew it would be already, but it became a very critically acclaimed miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
But more important to you, I'm sure, is what Bull Randleman and Vera thought about it. So what did they give you as feedback?
He loved it. They all loved it. Vera said something really sweet when we first met for the first time, which was in New York when we were headed to the premiere. I was across the room, and when I finally met them, she's like, "I knew it was you. I could tell you have Dev's back." And I was like, "I have his back. Oh my God!" She's like, "You move like him," which is crazy because I've never seen him. There's no film of him moving as a soldier thing. So some of it is applied, that she, and some of it is just the casting, that they just, Meg Lieberman did an amazing job casting. We met in New York. They saw we didn't see the project until the premiere. Generally speaking, and I always say generally speaking, I had not met anyone who didn't love it, who didn't think it was incredibly accurate, who didn't think it captured exactly what was going on with the company. I always say most, because I'm sure that there's someone out there who wasn't happy with it. I'm sure there was someone who felt underrepresented. I'm sure there was someone who felt that there was something that they did that we attributed to someone else. And we did, because we wanted to show all of the events that happened, or as many of the events that we could, and fill in the things that we didn't know with things that we knew happened, but we couldn't put every character in the project. So I'm sure that there's some people out there who don't feel represented, or who feel like we botched a certain part of it. But I never heard from them. We heard from the men, the vast majority, who felt incredibly positive about the project, and who felt that the project did represent exactly what happened. And from a representation standpoint, I feel confident saying we represented the men well. And we feel like we, based on what we hear from them, we feel like we nailed it, because we did the work that we needed to do to portray those men in that time as best as we could.
Now, of course, they're all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so the legacy continues on, thanks in part to the Ambrose book, thanks in part to the miniseries. But as long as you guys are together, what do you see as your responsibility to keep their legacy alive?
I think the show keeps their legacy alive. I think they will always be alive within us. I think that's more of a personal relationship that we have. They don't care. And they'd tell you if they were here. They don't care. The fanfare is not, the memory. They don't talk about those things. They loved each other, even the ones that pissed each other off, and we saw it. We got a really wonderful behind the curtain look at it, and they are a wonderful dysfunctional group.
You know, they are the bad news bears. They are the black sheep. These guys they're an amazing shit show. And they're amazing humans and would do anything for each other. Any of them called when they were all with us, and anyone needed anything, they'd drop everything and go take care of them because they're part of this company. So I think that things like the miniseries and the fact that it's, you know, we're 22 years later, and it had just come back out on Netflix, and the show was #1 for 2 weeks in a row. It's insane. 22-year-old show. I think it accurately depicts war, something I will never truly know, but have experienced through them in a very small way. I just think it's important to have it out there and to talk about these men, because the life we live is because of them.